Hello, welcome to Bits in Biology. My name's Liz, and in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the games I played in February 2025. In February, I had a total of 53 plays from 31 different games. 11 of those games were new to me, and in descending order of how much I enjoyed them, they were Fiction, Star Wars, the deck building game, Crokinole, In the Footsteps of Darwin, Honeybuzz, Cytosis, a cell biology game, The Lord of the Rings, Duel for Middle-earth, Wingspan, Diatoms, Wingspan Asia, and The Lord of the Rings, the card game. 9 of those 31 games were relevant to the channel, and 5 of those 9 were new to me. And those were In the Footsteps of Darwin, Honeybuzz, Cytosis, a cell biology game, Diatoms, and Wingspan Asia. If you want to see all of the games that I played in the month of February, or all of the games I play for that matter, you can visit my profile on BoardGameGeek, and I'll have a link to that down in the description. My statistics for January were pretty much the same. I had 54 plays of 27 different games. 10 of those were new to me, and 6 were channel relevant. Let's get on with the top 10 games that I played in February. As always, there are timestamps down below if you want to skip around. So 2 of the top 10 from February were new to me, and 5 of them were channel relevant. The channel relevant games I'll talk about in the second part of the video when I talk about all the channel relevant games, but I'll list them here. All right, some of these games I have talked about before, and so I'm going to try and talk about those a little less and talk more about the games that were new to me. I'm not always successful at this, but we'll give it a try. Anyway, coming in at number 10 is a game I've talked about before, and that is a classic. It is Ticket to Ride. We played this one time in February. We played the original Ticket to Ride, the United States map. I have 5 plays recorded for the United States map in BoardGameGeek, but I know I've played it way more than that because this was one of the first games that we bought when we first got into modern board gaming. If I look across all of the big box maps, I have played a total of 26 plus times. As I've mentioned before, I didn't start recording my plays until January of 2022. So quite a bit more plays than that. My favorite map actually is the UK map, but that is not a map that I would play with my mom. So her favorite map is the United States map because it is the least complicated. We also have some small box Ticket to Ride games. We have Amsterdam, London, and New York, and we've played those a total of 9 times. So this is a hand management route building game with contracts and open drafting. Plays 2 to 5 players in 30 to 60 minutes. Has an average BoardGameGeek weight of 1.82, an average rating of 7.4, and my rating of it is an 8.9. I actually really like Ticket to Ride. You can pretty much all play this anytime, any of the maps, although my favorite is probably the UK map. I really like the India map and also like the Pennsylvania map a lot. The other ones I think I've just played less. The Europe map is really good as well. They're all good. I like all of them. Anyway, in this game, you are building train routes based on tickets that you're holding in your hand. So the tickets will give you certain cities that your route must hit, a starting city and an ending city. And on your turn, you can either draw 2 cards or you can pay cards to lay down a route. The color of the cards has to match the route, or at least be all the same color if you're going for one of the gray routes. Anyway, this is a family favorite, and that is number 10, Ticket to Ride. Coming in at number 9 is a channel relevant game, and that is Wild Gardens. So I'll talk about that when I talk about the channel relevant games. Coming in at number 8 is Res Arcana, which is actually an old favorite that has taken us a while to get back to the table. We played this twice in February. We have 6 plays recorded, but we've actually played it quite a bit more times than that. This is a hand management and resource management game that is a bit of a race. If I recall correctly, it's a race. It was either 10 or 13 points. I can't remember off the top of my head. It plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 60 minutes, has an average BoardGameGeek weight of 2.64, an average rating of 7.6, and my rating of it is a 9. I just really enjoy this game. In this game, you have a set deck of cards, rather small deck of cards that you are working through. And you start with, I think it's a hand of 5, somewhere in that ballpark anyway. And you also have a mage. I think it's a mage. So you can tell it's been a while since we played this. We played it twice in February, but I think it was early on in the month. Anyway, on your turn, you will draw one more card into your hand at the end of your turn. And so at the start of your turn, you'll have anywhere from 1 to I don't think there's a hand limit. I can't remember. Anyway, you'll have several cards in your hand to choose from. You have to pay a number of resources to play those cards down in front of you, but once they're down in front of you, they will provide you with either resources or specific actions, or maybe even a combination of both. And what you are doing is trying to gain points either through specific tiles that are in a central area that everybody's going for, or through monument. I think they're monument cards. You can tell I can't remember the lingo of the game. Anyway, it's a really fun game. The gist of it is that you are not only managing your hand, but managing your resources. There's a lot of resource conversion going on and a lot of special powers in order to do that. A little bit of take that in the game, but it's not too bad if that's not something you enjoy. There's not much of it, just enough to keep our son interested. Anyway, me and my partner and our son all really enjoy this game. This is not a game I think that I would introduce to my mom, but it's really good. And that is number 8, Res Arcana. Coming in at number 7 is another channel relevant game, and one that was new to me in February, and that is Wingspan Asia. So I'll talk about that in the second half of the video. At number 6 is a game that was new to me, and that is The Lord of the Rings, the card game. And I've become a little bit obsessed with this one. I only played it once in February, but that's because I played it, I think it was on my birthday. I played this one for the first time on my birthday. I have now played it 10 times. Actually, now I think I've played it 11 times because I played it this morning, and I don't think that was reflected in my notes. 8 of those plays have been solo. This is a hand management scenario-based game with deck construction if you want. There's also pre-built decks, which is what I've been working with until I become more familiar with the game, I guess. This plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 90 minutes. Has an average Board Game Geek weight of 3.58, an average rating on Board Game Geek of 8.5, and my rating of it is a 9. And I just want to say that all of those stats are for the revised core set. So this game was originally published in 2011, and then they published a revised version in 2022, and that's the version that I have, which I think they made some tweaks to it, but I don't think much has changed. If you know different, feel free to let us know down in the comments. So this is a scenario-based game. You are working through various scenarios that occur in Middle-earth that are not necessarily from the books, from the Tolkien books, but are set in that universe, right? And so, for instance, I've been working through the base game scenarios and then also an expansion pack, like a scenario pack that has 2 scenarios in it. It's called The Dark of Mirkwood, I think. Anyway, where we start out by, we're trying to deliver a message to Galadriel. We're going through this dark forest with lots of spiders and orcs and stuff. And I don't want to give too much away in case you haven't played it and you want to. But anyway, you control as each player, or if you're playing solo, you can control, I play 2-handed. So I think the game, I've read somewhere that the game is kind of optimized for 2 players. So I play 2-handed when I play solo. So each hand or each player is in control of 3 heroes. And then you start the game with a hand of 6 cards. And then at the start of your turn, you gain some resources, you draw a card, and then you can put any number of those cards into play as long as you can pay for them. So these include allies who can help defend against and attack enemies, and events that can sort of help get you out of tricky situations, and attachments that can help you out in various ways. They're like bonus gear and that sort of thing. Anyway, I've just been really enjoying this game. It's really fun. The hand management part of it is a lot of fun, and I like the scenario, and I think it does a really good job of sort of immersing you in that. And it's, so far anyway, just challenging enough that I'm never sure I'm going to make it through a scenario. I have failed one so far that I had to go back and redo, and I've been playing through it as a campaign. I also have, but have not started yet, the Arid Mithrin campaign. I think I'm saying that right. So anyway, a lot of fun. I look forward to playing it lots more. And that is number 6, The Lord of the Rings, the card game. At number 5 is another channel relevant game. So I'll talk about that in the second half of the video, and that is Cascadia. Coming in at number 4 is Azul. We played this 1 time in February. We've played it a total of 16 times. I've actually played it twice solo. There's a fan-made solo mode on Board Game Geek that I've played that's actually pretty good. This is a tile placement, open drafting set collection game. plays 2 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.77, an average rating of 7.7, and my rating of it is a 9.1. I really love this game. I'm terrible at it, but I really enjoy it. So I think the premise of this game is that you are tiling a palace. You're a tile layer and you're tiling a palace. But really what you're doing, it's an abstract strategy game. On your turn, you have tiles to choose from in this central area. There might be 3 of them on, I forget what they call them, a factory. Anyway, it's a little piece of cardboard, 3 tiles there. Or there might be tiles in the middle. The trick is, or maybe it's 4 tiles. Sorry, I'm mixing it up with the harmonies. There's 4 tiles on each of those circles, the factories. Or you can take from the middle. But the trick is they all have to be the same color. So then you will take those and put them on your board on the left side of your board. So your board comes in 2 parts. There's a left side and a right side. And on the left side, you'll have, I think it's 5 rows. And each row can only hold tiles of the same color. And you can't transition tiles from the row until you've filled it up. Once you have filled it up, at the end of each round, for full rows, you can place one of those tiles onto your wall in the same row of your wall corresponding to that row where you had the tile. And you'll get points at the end for managing to fill rows or columns or managing to get complete sets of the same color. Anyway, I really love the puzzle of this game. I'm really not very good at it. I have managed to win every once in a while, but for the most part, I don't win. But I love playing it in any case. So that is number 4, Azul. All right, coming in at number 3 is Nucleum. And I think we played this at the very start of February. I think it's been a little while since we played it, but this is a heavier game. This was one of our Saturday games. We played this twice in February. We've played it a total of 4 times, all at 2 to 3 players, although I would really like to play it solo. This is a network building and hand management game, plays 1 to 4 players in 60 to 150 minutes. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 4.17, so a little bit of a heavier game, an average rating on Board Game Geek of 8.2, and my rating of it is a 9.3. And I really enjoyed this game. It has a really unique action selection mechanism in that, so the core premise of the game is that you're building routes, and it gets its name from these power plants that it's sort of set in an alternate reality where nuclear power was discovered, I think, in the 1800s. After coal power had been discovered, but as an alternative energy source. And so you are building up these nuclear power plants and you're building routes between them. And then you're also laying down tiles that are representing different buildings that you're going to power with these power plants. But you have to have routes built between the power plant, of course, and the building that you want to power because you have to be able to reach it. And the interesting thing to me about this game is that you have these tiles and they're double-sided. And on one side, they'll have 2 actions, one on either end of the tile. And then on the other side, it's just depiction of railroad tracks. And so these are the same tiles that you're going to lay on the board to create your routes. But you can also use the tiles over and over again if you keep them in your possession. Each turn, you're going to choose one tile and either perform both of the actions and keep it in your possession. You put it above your board, and that's going to have an impact of resources that you collect throughout the game. Or you can take that tile and put it on the board. And depending on color matching rules between locations where you place that tile, you might be able to do both actions or maybe just one of them. And then after you've performed that action or actions, you'll flip that tile over to show that it's complete, right? And you don't get to do the actions on that tile again, but it becomes part of your network. And you'll gain points for that during the game. Anyway, I just love that action selection mechanism. I love this idea that you need to build your routes. That's a requirement of the game. You're not going to win if you don't build routes on the board, but you don't want to give up your tiles because they have really good actions on them. So there's a balance between keeping your tiles and getting the most out of those actions and then using those tiles to put them on the board to build your routes. And you can gain more tiles throughout the game, but they're a limited supply. And so at some point there won't be any more that you can gain. Anyway, I really liked this game. I liked the puzzle of it. It has elements of Brass Birmingham, if you've played that. I've heard it also has elements of Barrage. I've not played that game. I can see the comparison to Brass Birmingham in that you are building routes and laying down buildings and converting those buildings, in this case by powering them. But this has more of a sandboxy, open feel to it. Brass Birmingham feels much more restricted. And so I love both of these games, but for different reasons. I think for Nucleum in particular, it is that action selection mechanism and balancing the keeping of the tiles versus putting them on the board to make your network. In any case, that is number 3, Nucleum. So numbers 2 and 1 are both channel relevant games that I'll talk about in the second half of the video. Coming in at number 2, we have Finspan. And at number 1, one of my all-time favorite games, and that is Darwin's Journey. So I only have one honorable mention today, and that is Crokinole. So this is a game I backed on Kickstarter because Mayday Games every 2 or 3 years has a Kickstarter where they offer a pretty cheap Crokinole board, right around $100. And so I backed this because I've heard about this game. I had never played it. It looks like fun. It's probably the only dexterity game that I really enjoy other than Clask. I also enjoy Clask. Anyway, this arrived in early February and we played it immediately. And according to my records on Board Game Geek, it says that I've only played it 4 times, but I swear I have played it more times than that. So I don't think I've recorded all my plays. This is a flicking game, plays 2 to 4 players in 20 to 30 minutes. It has an average weight on Board Game Geek of 1.22, so super light game, an average rating of 8.1, and my rating of it is an 8. So in this game, it's basically a big circular wooden board that is divided into sections reminiscent of a dartboard type thing. And the middle section has little pegs all around it that are really surprisingly easy to hit. And each player has, I think it's 12 discs, and the board is waxed and the discs are waxed, so everything slides really easily across the board. And so on your turn, you're going to flick a disc into the board. If there are no opponent's discs on the board, you're going to try and make it into the center. Hopefully into the very center hole, because that's going to get you a lot of points, but at least into that center area. If there are opponent's discs on the board, then you have to hit one of those discs. Now, you don't necessarily have to hit it with the disc that you flicked. You can carry them off of one of your other discs, but you do have to hit one of theirs. And once everybody has used up all of their discs, you take turns. Once everybody has used up all of their discs, then you will calculate your score, and you're going to earn certain points depending on which of those rings you're in, kind of like darts, right? And actually, the points that you score is going to be the difference between your score. So only one person will actually score each round. Whoever has the most points will score the difference between their actual score and the other person's actual score. And you play to, I think it's 100 points if I remember correctly. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk about this game is because this was a game that everybody enjoyed. We enjoyed it. My mother-in-law enjoyed it. My mom enjoyed it. And even my partner's sister, who has an intellectual disability, and we are always looking for games that we can play with her. And she really enjoyed it because she beat her brother. So that was pretty awesome. She did so well. Her first 3 times flicking the disc onto the board, I think she ended up in that center hole. And she was just tickled with herself. And so she had a lot of fun with that. And so that's, it will remain in our house forever because of that. Anyway, that is my honorable mention for this month, and that is Crokinole. All right, on to the channel relevant games. Coming in at number 9 was Death Valley. This is a little card game. I played it 3 times in February. I have actually only played it 3 times total. I do actually want to get back to the table. I'll talk about that in a minute. This is a push your luck 18-card card game from Button Shy. Plays 1 to 2 players in 15 minutes. I've only played it solo. I haven't played it 2 players yet. Although I think my partner might like it, and I think that would be a pretty interesting 2-player game. We tend to forget about these Button Shy games until we're out and about, because I'll just stick them in my purse, when we go out places. So they don't get actually played as often as you might think. Anyway, this has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.83, an average rating of 6.8. My rating of it is a 7.2. It's a good game. I'm not going to write home about it, but I really like it. So what you're doing in this game is, I guess the premise is you are traveling through Death Valley and recording your journey. And so you will have 2 rows, and this is true of both the solo game and the multiplayer game. You'll have 2 rows. One is called your journey and one is called your scrapbook. And you are each turn drawing a card, and you get the choice of either drawing blind or drawing from a face-up card in what's called the desert. And then you add that to your journey. There are, I think, 4 different symbols. I can't remember, but if you ever have 3 of those of the same symbol between your journey and your scrapbook, then actually your entire journey journey gets wiped out, but the cards in your scrapbook are safe. So on your turn, you can either draw a card or you can move a card from your journey to your scrapbook. And in the solo game, you're playing against an AI who just has a very easy decision structure for whether it draws from face down cards or the face up cards. And then there's a twist, a variant to the game, which I can't remember the name of. I'll put it up on the screen. I think it's called Backseat Driver. I can't remember. Anyway, where you can actually put cards in another player's journey, which can cause them to bust, right? And so I actually really like the solo game. Totally very quick game. I really enjoyed making the video for this one. So if you want to even learn a little bit about Death Valley, you can watch my playthrough video, because for each of the cards that highlights a place, I actually put a picture of that actual real place from Death Valley up on the screen. And I had so much fun researching that video. And now I really want to visit Death Valley. Probably not in the summer, maybe in the winter. But anyway, that was number 9, Death Valley. Coming in at number 8 is a game that was new to us in February, and that is In the Footsteps of Darwin. One of my favorite people from history. We played this 3 times in February. We have only played it 3 times solo so far. This is a tile placement, open drafting, and pattern building game. Plays 2 to 5 players in 20 to 30 minutes. And has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.70, an average rating of 7.3, and my rating of it is an 8. And I really enjoyed this game. It is a relaxing game, quite light, with an average weight of 1.7. My mom actually liked this game. The artwork is beautiful. So according to the description of the game, players are junior naturalists who have just arrived aboard the Beagle to help Charles Darwin finish his book on the origin of species. Okay, so we are, I guess, conveniently overlooking the fact that Darwin sailed on the Beagle from 1831 to 1836, which was over 2 decades before he published On the Origin of Species in 1859. And the voyage of the Beagle was not specifically for him to explore. It was actually to map all of these areas where it sailed. So Captain Fitzgerald was in charge of the ship and where it went, and for mapping those areas. And Charles Darwin was actually invited onto the ship as ship's naturalist. So that was his job, to explore all of these lands and record the things that he found. He was also brought onto the ship to be sort of a dinner companion for the captain, because of course the captain could not talk to the crew. That would be below him. So Charles Darwin was of the right social standing and he was a naturalist of some reputation, I think, at that point. I can't remember. He was quite young. I think he was only 23 when the Beagle sailed. Right around there anyway. So we're going to just conveniently ignore the actual dates of history. So in this game, players are taking turns drafting a tile from a central board, and they're doing that based on the location of this Beagle token that moves around the outside of this 3x3 grid. It's either 3x3 or 4x4. So you can take from either the row or column where that Beagle is, and then the Beagle will move at the end of your turn based on which tile you took from that row or column. And then once you take that tile, it's going to go onto your individual player board, and then points are going to be scored based on tile placement and the symbols found on the tiles that you collected. The artwork is beautiful, and the game is light enough for my mom enjoy, but still one of those ones that is interesting enough. It's got just enough puzzle to it that the rest of us also find it quite interesting. The publisher also has a game called In the Footsteps of Marie Curie. This is by a different designer, so I don't think it has the same mechanisms, but honestly, I haven't taken the time to look into it yet, but I'm curious just based on the theme. Marie Curie was a Polish chemist and the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, and the first person to win a Nobel Prize twice, and the only person to win a Nobel Prize in 2 scientific fields, first in physics and later in chemistry. I think the only other person to win 2 Nobel Prizes was Linus Pauling, who won a Nobel Prize in chemistry for figuring out a protein structure. And then again, he won the Nobel Peace Prize after that. Anyway, back to In the Footsteps of Darwin. This is a game that I definitely want to get back to the table again really soon. We very much enjoyed it. And so that was number 8. In the Footsteps of Darwin. Coming in at number 7 is another game that was new to us in February, and that is Honey Buzz. And I have been wanting to play this one for quite a while. I think I got this, I think it must have been a deal of the day at Game Nerds or something like that. Anyway, we only played it once in February, but don't let that be any indication of how much I enjoyed this game. We played it at the end of February. I think we played this the day after my birthday. So that would have been on the last day of February. This is a worker placement, tile placement, pattern building game with some set collection, plays 1 to 4 players in 45 to 90 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.73, an average rating of 7.5, and my rating of it is an 8.1. And so in Honeybuzz, you are building your hive, making honey, and then selling that honey. On your turn, you're going to place a worker bee so that you can collect a tile that's going to allow you to perform a specific action in the future, such as foraging for nectar, collecting pollen, making honey, or maybe selling that honey at the market. So I really enjoyed this game. The theme, of course, is really fun. Bees making honey. It's got a little bit of a non-realistic theme in that they're selling their honey at the market, right? So anthropomorphic bees, I guess. But anyway, you are building out a hive with tiles. And so when you put them together, you'll have a hole in the middle. And based on the dark outlines within that hole, the pattern of those dark outlines, you'll collect specific types of honey when you do the honey production action. I can't remember the actual name of it, based on the pattern of the tiles that you put out. Once you complete one of those holes, you'll be able to do all the actions that are surrounding that hole, so the tiles that you collected earlier. So I really like that mechanism, that puzzle of sort of planning ahead so that you can have the right collection of actions to do on your turn. And I also really enjoyed, there's sort of like a game within a game in that one of the actions is foraging. And there's a grid that you're foraging within where you are collecting particular tiles that are going to be the way that you collect the honey for those holes. So you can't actually collect honey. I sort of misspoke earlier. You can't actually collect the honey when the hole's empty. You have to put a tile in that. And you get that tile from that foraging action because you have to collect specific nectar, right? To get specific honey. And you can also get pollen that way as well. And so the way that you move around that grid, all of the players are moving around the same grid. It's a central board. And so I played this 2 players so far. And there's quite the competition for the specific tiles. So you really have to keep an eye on what the other players are doing and what sort of honey they're working towards getting, because there's limited number of those tiles for the specific types of honey. And if I remember correctly, at setup, it's variable which tiles are going to come out. I think a certain number of them are removed, if I remember correctly. Anyway, I really liked this game. It's worker placement. It's a little more complicated than I would introduce to my mom, just barely, which is unfortunate. I think she would have a little trouble with some of the fact that there's a lot of planning ahead. And that's not something she's a huge fan of in the games. We really like that. So I'll definitely introduce this to our son at some point. It'll be one of our Saturday games at some point, and I am definitely looking forward to playing it solo. So anyway, that is number 7, Honeybuzz. Coming in at number 6 is another game that was new to us in February, and that is Cytosis, a cell biology game. We played this twice in February. I've played it 2 times total so far. This is a worker placement and set collection game, plays 2 to 5 players in 60 to 90 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.42, an average rating of 7, and my rating of it is an 8.2. I was so surprised by this game. I'm embarrassed to say it took me forever to get this game to the table. I think I backed this on Kickstarter. So that tells you how long it took to get it to the table. I'm not sure, actually. I've had it in my collection for a while. Anyway, so Cytosis takes place inside of a human cell, which sounds like it might be more educational than fun. But actually, I was quite impressed by how well they integrated the mechanisms and the theme. However, you don't need to know anything about cell biology to enjoy this game and to win. And so I just think that that's really fun. In fact, I played with my partner and our son, and together we actually span a range of cellular knowledge. So I, of course, have taught basics of cell biology in introductory biology classes, and my partner knows enough cell biology of what you might teach up to about 5th grade because he's an elementary school teacher. And our son is somewhere in the middle because he just learned a little bit of cell biology this year in science. He's in 7th grade. And so definitely we span the breadth of knowledge of cells, from knowledge to no knowledge. And you don't need to know anything, and it doesn't get in the way. But if you know the science, you'll be quite impressed with how well they do in tying it all together and making the mechanisms make sense in light of the science. And so on your turn, you place a worker on an available location in the cell. Some locations are going to provide resources such as mRNA or ATP, while others are going to allow you to perform actions such as that will allow you to convert resources, like converting DNA to mRNA or mRNA to a protein, or it might let you collect cards. Resources are going to be used to build enzymes, hormones, and hormone receptors, and the player with the most health points at the end of the game is the winner. This game presents the science accurately. I was completely impressed by that, but without going into so much detail that it gets in the way of having fun. So overall, it's a very solid worker placement game that I can recommend to anybody. It's kind of like a Genotype, which is another really great game that is very accurate in the science, but has some great worker placement mechanisms that you don't have to know anything about Mendel or genes or anything in order to have fun with that game. And so this is another example of that, both by the same publisher, by the way, Genius Games. So anyway, that is Cytosis, a cell biology game at number 6. Coming in at number 5 is another game that was new to us in February, and that is Diatoms. Oh, this game is so much fun. We played this 6 times. I've played it 6 times total so far. I think I played it in March and I didn't record it. But anyway, I have 6 games recorded. I played it 4 times solo, 2 times multiplayer, once at 3 players and once at 4 players. This is a tile laying, pattern building, and set collection game. Plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes. Has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.71, an average rating of 7.9, and my rating of it is an 8.7. In Diatoms, you're creating this beautiful tile mosaic of different shapes and colors that represent diatoms. These are single-celled algae with cell walls made of glass that come in a variety of beautiful shapes. And in fact, diatom mosaics are a form of microscopic art where diatoms are arranged into these beautiful patterns on microscope slides, which is amazing to think about. It was particularly popular in the Victorian era with the improvement and increased availability of microscopes. So on your turn, you're going to place a hexagonal tile into a central area that represents a pond where you're collecting diatoms that come in a variety of shapes and colors that you're then going to place on your player board. You're going to score points at the end of the game based on symmetry as well as the diversity of colors and shapes on your board. Now that's for the multiplayer game. In the solo game, you're actually working to create specific patterns called commissions. And as you work through all the commissions that are available in the game, they're going to get increasingly difficult. So I backed this game on Kickstarter mostly because of the incredibly unique theme. I wasn't sure it was going to go to retail, and I knew I wanted it. And as the Kickstarter progressed, the designer's enthusiasm for the game was just evident in every one of the updates, as she was so excited. Sabrina was so excited about, making the tiles just the right beautiful thickness to feel good in your hand. They have a little bit of foil accent on them, makes them really pretty. And this is just in the not deluxe version. There's also wooden tiles available, which I think you can still get. They were available in the Kickstarter, but I didn't get those. I just got the regular version. And it comes with these Petri dishes that you store the tiles in, which is just great and makes it really easy to get to the table because you just take them out of the box and put them on the table. So really easy to set up and put away. Really fun to play. I also did an interview with the designer, so I'll talk more about that when I talk about channel updates, because that'll be coming to the channel soon. And so our whole family enjoyed this one, even my mom. And anyway, I will have a playthrough coming up for it in the not too distant future. So that was number 5, Diatoms. Okay, I just realized that all 5 of the new channel relevant games are back to back to back. So number 4 was also new to us in February. Well, sort of new. This is Wingspan Asia. So Wingspan is not new to us, but this was the first time that we played the duet version for Wingspan Asia. We only played this once in February. We will definitely get this back to the table again. I definitely want to play it solo, just there has been no time. This is a tableau building, hand management, and open drafting game. It plays very similarly to Wingspan, so I'll talk more about that in a minute. It plays 1 to 2 players. I say that with an asterisk because I think, so I got this when I got the nesting box. It came in the nesting box, but I think the regular Wingspan Asia also comes with the expansion that makes it so that you can play Wingspan with 6 to 7 players. Don't ask me how that works. I don't know, but I guess it works pretty well. It includes some simultaneous play of some sort. What I can tell you about is the 2-player game. So it plays 1 to 2 players in 40 to 70 minutes. Can't remember if I said the time. Has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.68, an average rating of 8.2, and my rating of it right now is a 9. It's liable to go up, but I've only played it once. So, take that however you want. So this, like I said, this game plays very similarly to Wingspan in that you are building a tableau of cards of birds, and there's the 3 habitats, the forest and the prairie or grassland and the wetlands, and you still have the same when activated actions and game end actions and between your turn when other players do things sort of actions. And so you're doing that and you're collecting food, and it still has the dice and all of that. However, the additional thing that the duet version has is this central board. So when you play a card to your board, based on the habitat you play it in, and then also some other feature of that bird, such as a food requirement or a nest type or something like that, you will take one of these yin-yang tokens. So one player plays black, one player plays white, and you'll place it on the central board based on characteristics of that bird you just played. And then at the end of each round, the end of round goals are not for birds on your player board. They are for where your tokens are on that central board. And then also, I think you also score at the end of the game, maybe I can't remember if that was an end game goal or not. Anyway, I just love that central board mechanism. That was really interesting and adds an element of interactiveness that is not present in regular Wingspan. And I really liked that. I'm really curious about how the solo game plays for that. So looking forward to trying that. I'll definitely do a playthrough of that on the channel once I figure that out. But that was really fun. So that is number 4, Wingspan Asia. All right, for the last 3, I'm going to try and go through these pretty quickly. I've talked about all of these games before, and I think all of them pretty recently as well, maybe even all in the January vlog. So coming in at number 3 is Cascadia. We played this one time in February. We've played it 31 times total. I've played it 13 times solo and 18 times at anywhere from 2 to 4 players. This is a tile laying and pattern building game. Plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes, has an average Board Game Geek weight of 1.86, an average rating of, I don't have the average rating here. Okay, an average rating of whatever number I put up over here, because I have 30 to 45, which is the minutes. So copy paste error. My rating of it, however, is a 9. I'm going to guess that the average rating is somewhere in the 7s. Anyway, so in Cascadia, you are drafting tiles. Everybody's drafting a combination of a tile and a wildlife token, and then you're placing those into your own habitat landscape that you're building up. And you're trying to connect habitats and then lay out the wildlife tokens in patterns that match the goal cards that you are working with. So this is a family favorite. It plays really well solo, plays very well multiplayer, really easy to introduce to new players, and set, of course, in my area of the country where I grew up, which is the Pacific Northwest. So that is number 3, Cascadia. Coming in at number 2 is a game that I think was new to me in January, and that is Finspan. And so we played this once in February. We've played it 9 times total, 2 times at 4 players, 1 time at 2 players, and I've played it 6 times solo. This is a tableau building and hand management game. It has some elements that are similar to Wingspan and then some things that are different. So I'll talk about that in a minute. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 2.34, an average rating of 7.8, and my rating of it is a 9.4. I loved this game. It is so much fun. And I think a lot of that has to do with how fun the fish are. So the fish are wild, right? Ocean fish anyway, because they come in all different shapes and sizes. And in this game, you have your board, you're building out your tableau instead of horizontally like you are in Wingspan, you're building it out vertically. So there's 3 columns that represent 3 different dive sites. But on top of that, there are within each of those dive sites 3 different zones. There's the sunlight zone, the twilight zone, and the midnight zone. And then the bottom column also counts as the abyssal zone. And the very top, or not bottom column, bottom row also counts as the abyssal zone. And then the very top row also counts as the estuary zone, which I think is going to come more into play in future expansions, is my understanding. So what you're doing is you're playing fish cards. One of the things that I really like about this game is instead of rolling dice for resources like you do in Wingspan, you are paying for those fish with cards out of your hand and also possibly young fish, not fish cards, but young and eggs from your board. So those could be points at the end of the game. So you're potentially giving up points to play cards. And then another fun thing about this is that when you discard a card, it goes into your own personal discard pile. So you are managing not only your hand, but also your discard pile. And then on your board, you're playing your cards, but you're also laying eggs, just like you do in Wingspan. But those eggs then hatch into young, and those young can move around the board to form schools, which then score points at the end of the game. So it's interesting because even Stonemaier Games says that they think that this is a lighter game than Wingspan. I don't really agree with that. I don't think it's much more complicated, but I think it's definitely not lighter because, and this is why. So there's not as large a variety of actions on the fish cards as there is on the birds in Wingspan. However, which I guess that makes it more simple, but you are managing your hand, you're managing your discard pile, you're also controlling the spatial element where you are hatching eggs into young and then moving those young around to form schools, which will score you good points at the end of the game. And then not only do you have your columns, your 3 dive sites, but then you also have those 3 zones. So there's sort of a grid thing going on. Now, most of the time, the fish requirements require them to be placed into 1 or more specific zones. They don't usually have column requirements, but sometimes they do. And so and that's very easy to miss, by the way. So you have to pay attention to that. I just really love it. The fish are cool, especially the very deep sea fish. Those are really cool. The facts that they have about the fish, it's usually just 1 sentence, and those are really interesting. We had a lot of fun with that. There was a lot of like, look at this fish, and can you believe what this says? But what I will say is my mom enjoys Wingspan. Wingspan is probably the heaviest game that we can play with her. She didn't really like Finspan. I think there was just too many extra components for her, too many extra decisions to make for her to feel comfortable with, and so she doesn't want to play it again. I, however, really liked this game. I thought it was really fun to play solo. I think if you're somebody who likes more complex games, maybe this isn't the game for you. But if you're somebody who likes the lighter games, and especially if you like the fish theme, this is a really fun game. So anyway, I'm trying not to talk about it more. If you want my more detailed thoughts, I actually did a whole review on it, playthrough and review, so you can go take a look at that. And that was number 2, Finspan. Coming in at number 1 is one of my all-time favorite games. I've talked about this a bunch before, and that is Darwin's Journey. I played this twice in February, and I think both of those games were multiplayer, actually, which is surprising that I didn't play it solo at all when I had it set up. But I have played this 25 times total. 15 of those plays have been solo. 10 of those have been at anywhere from 2 to 3 players. Oh, the February games, actually, we introduced this to our son for the first time. So both of those games were at 3 players. This was one of our Saturday games. And he actually really enjoyed it. So that was good. This is a worker placement and set collection game. Plays 1 to 4 players in 1 to 2 hours. It has an average Board Game Geek weight of 3.91, an average rating on Board Game Geek of 8.1, and my rating of it is a 10. I love this game. I love the theme. Darwin is one of my favorite figures from history, and there is so much attention to detail as far as the journey of the ship through the islands. So in this game, you have a couple things going on. So you have worker placement going on in the top half of the board, or the top 2/3 of the board, where you're picking different spaces for your workers to go that will allow you to either move explorers through the islands, the Galapagos Islands, or to move your ship along its route through the Galapagos. And you are also trying to educate your assistants, so gaining scrolls, I think they're called scrolls in the game that way, and trying to collect specimens that you will then sell or send back home to the museum and advance your token on the theory of evolution track. You're sending letters back home. There's multiple ways to gain points. There's multiple paths to victory. There are also objective tiles that you can get that when you fulfill them will get you also additional bonuses. Like sometimes it's just points and sometimes it will be sort of enhancements to your actions, which is kind of fun. And at some points in the game, you can chain together several things, which is really fun to do. And it's just, I love it multiplayer. I love it solo. It's just a really fun puzzle. It's very thinky. If you don't like heavier games, it's probably not the game for you. If you don't like worker placement, this is probably not the game for you. However, if the theme appeals to you, you like heavier Euro games and all the puzzly goodness, all the puzzly decision making that goes into them, and balancing, your movement along these different tracks on the islands and in the ocean, then I totally suggest you check this out. Anyway, I could go on and on. That was number 1, Darwin's Journey. So now on to crowdfunding. I backed 2 games in the month of February, and that is Biomes of Nilgiris, I think I'm saying that right, and Baghdad, the City of Peace. So Biomes of Nilgiris is an action selection and set collection game with a modular board that is built up with cards. It plays 1 to 4 players in 60 to 90 minutes. And in this game, players are taking on different roles to complete conservation missions in the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. So this is located in the Nilgiri Mountains in southwestern India. And I was immediately drawn to this game based on, visual appeal, because it is beautiful, and the uniqueness of the location. So I know nothing about Indian wildlife, and so I'm really looking forward to learning that. And before making my final decision, however, so I'm not going to just buy a game because it has a pretty face, although, that's not true. Sometimes I have. But I did watch a preview playthrough on the Before You Play channel with Monique and Naveen. And it looked really interesting. It does look like a bit of a table hog, so you definitely need a lot of space to play this game. But it looks really beautiful. It looks like a lot of fun. You're moving your worker around this modular board, and you're collecting wildlife. And there was some other things that you were collecting. I can't remember all the details, but it looks really interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. It won't fulfill until 2026, I think. So I'll have to put it out of my mind for now. But I think there are late pledges available through the publisher's website, so I will try and put a link to that down below in the description. Anyway, that was Biomes of Nilgiris. I also backed Baghdad, the City of Peace. This is a worker placement hand management game with a rondelle system. It plays 1 to 4 players in 90 to 120 minutes. And I love the theme of this game, and it is just beautiful. And it's by 2 designers who designed also Merv, which is a game I love. So this is set in the 9th century during Baghdad's Golden Age. And players are taking on the role of viziers, vying for the attention of the many poets, philosophers, doctors, scientists, mathematicians, authors, artists, and inventors visiting the great city of peace. So that's Baghdad. In order to grow their family's reputation and gain the favor of the caliph. You're going to move your vizier around the circular city, and in doing so, you're going to collect scientific equipment, teach students, and translate scholarly works. The primary action mechanism of this game looks really quite interesting. So I watched part of a playthrough on Rado's channel. So if you're interested, I'll try and put a link to that down below. But below each player's personal board, so everybody has their own personal board, and below each player's personal board, there is a line of 3 cards that's arranged one right after the other. And on your turn, you're going to play a card to the far left of that line, and that's going to push all of the cards over, and there's only room for 3 cards, so it pushes the card on the far right sort of off the end. And the action that you do is not from the card you just placed, it's from the card that gets pushed out, right? The one that was all the way far to the right. So you have to plan in advance for your actions and the sequence of your actions, and I just find that really interesting. And so after performing the card's ability and then possibly also collecting a reward from that card or resources or something, wasn't quite clear on that, then it'll go into your personal discard pile. so that you can use it again later. So I'm assuming you have, I didn't watch the whole playthrough. I only watched part of it, and this was a while ago, so I don't remember all the details. And so I can't remember if you add to your cards from a draw pile somewhere or not, or if you just have a certain set of cards that you work with for the entire game. I can't remember that, but I do remember that it looked really interesting. It looked like a lot of fun decisions to be made in this game. So the board is, well, first of all, it's round and not square, which is great. And so it's a round board. It's colorful. It's beautiful. So it's really nice to see these colorful Euros. Merv was the same way. Sancore, which I have not gotten yet and really want to play sometime, which has one of the designers in common. And I also love the setting. I love the theme, this whole idea of the golden age of knowledge in the Middle East. And so this is an area that I didn't learn a lot in my history classes, right? I didn't learn a lot about. And so it's really fun to me to learn more about that area and the history of that area. So this game was designed by the same two designers that also worked together to design Merv, which is a game I very much enjoy, as well as two games I haven't yet played, which is Audubon, which I actually recently got on my shelf because it was a deal of the day. I can't remember why, but it had to do with the designers anyway. And then they also designed Shackleton Base, which I have not played and I don't know much about. In addition to all of that, another really interesting thing is that the founder and director of Alley Cat Games, which is the publisher of this game, was born in Baghdad and grew up in the United Kingdom. So he has this ancestral history with Iraq and Baghdad and that whole region. And so because of that, he was personally involved in the development and trying to make sure that it stayed true to the history and the sort of the culture of that area and that era. And another cool fact is that his father was the one who did the Arabic translation for the subtitle for the game, The City of Peace, and did the calligraphy. So I'll highlight that right about now. But the calligraphy is quite the art form, I guess, in the Middle East. And so his father did the calligraphy on the cover of the box. So I think that is really cool. Anyway, that is Baghdad, the City of Peace. I'm really looking forward to getting that one. And I think it's actually, what's its publication date? 2025. So I think that's supposed to deliver later this year. Fingers crossed. Anyway, those are the two games I backed on crowdfunding in the month of February. All right, before we wrap up with a quick channel update, I just want to give a shout out to two of my favorite YouTube channels, and that is Foster the Meeple and Board Game Sanctuary for a couple of videos that they recently both posted. And so Foster the Meeple, Jamie from Foster the Meeple recently posted a video called Tips to Get Out of a Gaming Slump, where she talked about how she's been in a gaming slump and having a hard time deciding what to play and getting games to the table and that sort of thing. And so I just thought that was a really interesting video. Been a while since I watched it, so I can't actually remember all the details, and I don't want to give anything away, but I will provide a link to that down below so you can check that out. And then the other one I want to give a shout out to is from the channel Board Game Sanctuary. Danny over there just very recently posted, so I guess he posted it in March, so maybe not February, but anyway, he posted a video called Why the Cult of the New is Ruining Board Gaming. Okay. The title's a bit clickbaity, but the content of the video is great. In this video, Danny talks about the constant desire that we often have for something new, right? New board games or whatever it is, new books, new whatever, that little bit of that fear of missing out and other things like that that go into the purchase of something new, like new board games, right? Acquiring new board games. But at the same time, and you've heard me lament it in many of my videos, like I still have these old favorites that I want to get to the table more often. And so he talks about sort of balancing those things and slowing down the intake, right? So that you're not getting so many new games and being able to get some of your old favorites to the table more often. And so I just found it really interesting. He does these videos, I think a few times a month. They're called Talking Board Games or something like that. Anyway, they're short little videos. They're usually 10 to 15 minutes where he talks on a particular topic having to do with board games. And I just love his laid back, very friendly style that he has in his videos. And in fact, His channel was one of the very first channels I discovered way back when I started watching board game YouTube. Anyway, so that's Board Game Sanctuary. So I'll put a link to that video down below in the description. All right, wrapping up with some channel news coming soon. So I just published, the last video that I published was the top 10 nature-themed solo games in the light to medium category. And so soon I will record the top 5 in the medium to heavy category. So these are nature-themed, channel-relevant games. And then also, still coming, I know I said this in January, it's still in the works, and that is an introduction or overview for the Board Game Geek website. I've been sort of sketching out in my head what I want to put in there. However, it needs to be useful to you guys. You guys are the reason that I'm going to make it. And so I need to know what you want to know about the Board Game Geek website. Are there things that, like, if you know nothing about Board Game Geek and you want to know from the get-go, like, how it's arranged, or if there's things that I've mentioned in videos that you want to know how to find or be a part of or whatever, like the solo board gaming community that's on Board Game Geek. There's also a board game challenge community. There's 3D printing community that I'm part of. Anyway, I want to know what you want to know so that I can make sure that the video is useful to you guys. So I will pin a comment down below, and you can respond to that or just throw your comment anywhere in the comments. That would be great. And I will take all of those into consideration that when you comment before I make the video. So that'll probably be a couple weeks before I can make that. But this is, the reason I'm doing it is this was actually a request in the comments in a video a little while back. So anyway, video for introduction or overview for Board Game Geek coming soon. I have also recently recorded an interview with the designer of Diatoms, Sabrina Culyba. And I will say this was my first interview, so my questions and everything are not great. My end of the interview is probably not the best. Sabrina was brilliant. She's awesome, wonderful human being, a great board game designer. She's got some other interesting things to say, so that was all good. One thing I will say, and so maybe if you have done interviews like this, you can tell me how to fix this problem, but I'll just Google it and figure it out. But I had a delay in my headphones, and so it really threw me off the whole time when I was talking, because I would say something and then I would hear it just a half second later in my headphones. And you can see throughout the interview that it's really throwing me off. I'm still editing that one. I'm in the process of editing it right now. But Sabrina was great, and so definitely worth watching despite my lack of skill in interviewing, which I'm sure I will get better as time goes by. So that's coming soon. And then, and also I'll do a playthrough for Diatoms, so you'll see that. A couple other things I wanted to mention, because these actually just both arrived yesterday, and that is a while back, the designer and publisher for Primates. This was on Kickstarter a while back. I remember it being on Kickstarter. I didn't back it, I think because it didn't have a solo mode, but it does look really interesting. And so it says Primates is an evolutionary board game where you can trace the evolution of over 100 primate species, ranging from leaping lemurs to majestic gorillas. As your primates evolve, they unlock special abilities. Whether you prefer the agility of gibbons, the remarkable memory of chimpanzees, or the food sharing of bonobos, the choice is yours as you determine which evolutionary path to take. Anyway, the publisher contacted me and asked if I would do a playthrough and review, and in exchange for the game. So that will be coming soon. So it doesn't have a solo mode, so I will be playing this two-handed, and I need to learn the rules, and it's not even out of shrink yet. It literally just arrived on my doorstep yesterday. So I'll do a quick unboxing for my Patreon supporters, and then I'll be recording this sometime in the next few weeks. So I'll look for that. It looks really good, actually. I was really excited when I saw that on Kickstarter. And then the other one, I actually reached out to the publisher for this game, Northwest, because I saw this mentioned. So I'll provide a link to this down below. But there's another YouTube channel that I really like, and that is Thinker Themer. So Amy and Maggie over at Thinker Themer talked about a bunch of games that they played at Dice Tower West, and Northwest was one of them. This was a little too light for them. They like heavier games, and so they didn't have anything bad to say about it. They just said it was too light for them. But this is an abstract strategy game that plays 2 to 4 players, but it is set in the Pacific Northwest. So, of course, I was immediately drawn to it, and it actually looks quite beautiful. And so the idea here is that you are drafting cubes from a central board, and you're doing that by moving this, I think it's a Sasquatch that you're moving around the board, which is totally appropriate. Anyway, I approached the publisher and said, I would love to help you because they're a very small publisher. I said, I would love to help you spread the word about this game. Would you be interested in exchanging a copy for a review? Now, again, right now, this doesn't have a solo mode. However, I'm excited to tell you, for those of you that love playing solo games, that there is a solo mode forthcoming. They are launching another Kickstarter in May for an expansion. That expansion includes a solo mode. And so what I understand from what they told me in our short email back and forth is that this first print run has pretty much sold out. So they shipped it to backers, Kickstarter backers. Now, I don't know how I didn't see this on Kickstarter because I definitely would have backed it. But so they shipped it to Kickstarter backers. They managed to get a few out into retail stores. It's just shipping to Kickstarter backers right now, but it's not going to be widely available because they had a really limited first print run because it's a really small publisher. So there's that, but they will have another Kickstarter in May. So I will probably try to get something up, possibly a two-handed playthrough. I'm not sure how that's going to work, or at least we will play it as a family, and I'll talk about it in one of my vlogs. And then once the solo mode comes out, I will definitely do a playthrough for that. So anyway, that is Northwest, just arrived on my doorstep yesterday. So again, I will do an unboxing for my Patreon supporters, and you can look forward to more content about that in the future. All right, wrapping up with a channel update, and that is that we're up to 610 subscribers. I'm so excited. Previously, in mid-February, when I recorded my last vlog, we were at 540. So we've almost jumped up by 100. So I am making the lofty goal of 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So we'll see if we can do it. I want to thank all of you who have subscribed and all of you who comment and put your, do the thumbs up on the videos, because that really helps YouTube spread the word and get it out to more people. Basically, by you commenting and doing the thumbs up, if you like it, of course, don't thumbs up if you didn't like it, but I hope you like it. And so by you doing that, it tells YouTube that there is value there for other people, and they will send my videos out into the suggestions for other people. So it'll reach more people. And anyway, so try and get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. That would be fantastic. Other channel news, I got a new camera for my birthday, so that should increase the quality of the playthrough videos. It's going to be the overhead camera, and so see that coming soon. So that's part of the reason that I've recently been slow, because I haven't been as busy as I was, but I got this new camera, and so my whole studio, it's actually a corner of my office, my recording space over here, was in a shambles because I had torn everything out. And of course, if you want to see a picture of the studio, that's over in the, I forget what they call it, community section tab of YouTube. I put a picture there. And so I was setting up with a C-stand and the camera and everything. And I've been trying to figure out how to use the camera because I'm not camera savvy. And so it's been a big learning experience, but shout out to Dads and Dice and Board Game James. They helped me figure out how to improve the quality. I was having trouble with the resolution. And so I'm a member of a Discord group where they're also members of, and they took the time to help me figure out the technical aspects of making sure the quality was up to par. So I will put links to both of their channels down in the description, because I just want to say a big shout out to both of them for their help in that. That was fantastic. All right. And I think that's it. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, I would love it if you would subscribe. And other than that, that's all I have for you. I will see you in the next one. Bye.